question. So just as a reminder, please ask for the mic before you ask any question. So today we have Isaac Fines-Leleosa, we have James Sleeper and Dan Palmer. First question, please.
Dan, who's your skipper this week?
We're giving Will as much time as possible to get ready for the game. So he's in treatment, he's working with the physios at the moment. We'll give him to the last minute to be ready. So at the moment, Willie.
So in the fair income department, he's not out yet, like he's a chance of playing still?
Absolutely.
Do you guys see an advantage of not sort of announcing that publicly, like even if you do know that internally, or like is there any sort of mind games around trying to make it like he's there when he's not at captain's run today?
Well, there's no mind games. I think we're just giving him, like I said, as long as possible to get ready. He's an important part of our team and we're prepared to do that.
Thanks, Dan. Is there an obligation then to have an extra player in the team photo? You had Matt out there today. Like, can you explain what the thinking there is if, you know, Will might play, why you've brought a player in for the team photo?
Yeah, well, he might play and he might not. So if he doesn't, we're confident that MP can step up and do a job for us. He's a world-class lock, so he'll be Will's replacement if Will's not ready.
And Dan, have you got an idea about who would lead the side if indeed Skelton's not there?
Dave Perecki.
James, congratulations, the 4th World Cup campaign. Can you tell us about the journey getting there, the 3rd Australian to become to reach that milestone?
Yeah, firstly, thanks, mate. Yeah, it's been a really good week, really. Yeah, there was a point there a couple of weeks ago where probably thought it might not have happened, but lucky enough to get through that injury and lace up this weekend, albeit without Nella there at tight end, which would be a preference of mine. But I'm excited to be out there putting on the jersey again. Something I really take a lot of pride in, so I'm looking forward to it.
Dan, sorry, one more just on Will. He went for scans yesterday. What did the scans show?
I'm not a doctor, but I think it was just a minor strain. Hence why he's still in the mix.
Slips, heading into the 2019 World Cup, I think you said, you know, you weren't sure how your body was going to go at that. Here we are, like 4 years later. So what sort of physical shape are you in? You know, obviously the training's been pretty full on this year under Eddie, and sort of how's the body, I guess?
Yeah, besides, like, obviously I had the foot injury last couple of weeks, which is a bit of a tendon issue. That's come on this year, but that's manageable. In terms of the rest of the body, it's really good. So, I'm really confident in my body at the moment. I've played a lot of rugby this year, so I've only missed the last 2 tests, and so I get the opportunity to lace up this weekend, and I'm 100% fit, ready to go.
James, had Angus and Blake shop up yesterday and talked about sort of your influence on their career. Just to reverse that, what do you learn from young guys like that? And I guess, how have you seen that sort of influence of young blood and new faces come into this team?
Oh, firstly, it's awesome to see both of those players really, really playing well. Belly's been outstanding for us, you know, pretty much for the last 4 games. He's been one of our best forwards. So, and Choppy, he's had a wonderful journey, hasn't he? His story's remarkable. You know, he's a school teacher, at the start of the year. So for him to come through Super and now end up at a World Cup and not just making up the numbers, he's contributing off the bench as well. So it's both those players I guess they're keeping me on my toes. It's I guess you feed off that sort of energy that the young enthusiasm youth players bring. And, I'm no different. I get a kick out of seeing them do really well, and that's what I want to see from all the young players. I want to see them playing their best rugby.
Slips, Shoppy was saying yesterday that he would like to be able to play both sides of the scrum one day. He was hoping to learn off you while you're there. For many people who follow rugby closely, they still can't work out why it's so complicated from tight head to loose head. What what are the things that enable some players to do it and others not to be able to do it? And what sort of advice would you give to a bloke like Shoppy, who's sort of starting out, to be able to have that versatility?
Yeah, it's a good question, that. I was fortunate enough when I first started playing Test rugby, and Palms was playing too. There was one prop on the bench, so that prop on the bench had to cover both. So there was a bit of incentive there to be good at both, so you can at least land a bench spot. So that was my way of thinking when I was young. And I guess, a lot of Super Rugby I played tight end, a lot of Test rugby I played loose head, so I just naturally fell into that mould of being able to play both. I think what you've seen over the last couple of years, or the years after that, is since it's been specific loose head, tight head roles, a lot of the props are getting a lot bigger now, and they're getting a lot craftier with their trade on the one side, and they pour all their time and effort into that one side, and they're becoming really good at it. I guess the one piece of advice I'd give someone like Shoppy, or a young player coming through who wants to play both sides, you just need time in the saddle. You need to give it a go. You need to understand the scrum and how to go about it at training firstly, and then it's like anything really, you got to get on the bike and cycle.
Dan, you had a bit of a wry smile when Jules started asking that question. What was that?
No, it's a good question. I mean, I back up everything Slip said. I think one of the traps you can fall into is becoming kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. So you've got to be really careful of that, because it really is a different position. As you say, some players tend to do it easier than others, and you really don't know until you give it a crack. And I think one of the most important things Slip said there was really understanding the dynamics of the whole scrum. So if you get pigeonholed into one position, you can understand your position really well, but to be able to chop and change between the two, you really need to understand the scrum as a whole and what we're trying to achieve as a unit. So I think, as you said, Shoppy's keen to give that a go, and we'll see how it all pans out.
And James, we tend to understate the props and forwards and how long you can keep going. Like George Greig and AAC, they're two backs. Can you describe how tough it is physically to keep going for so long? And did you ever think that your career might have already ended at this point in time? And did you think that you'd be playing this late in your career?
I always said I wanted to retire at 30. Turned 34 this year, so I've gone a bit over time. But yeah, like it's probably something I didn't set out to do, is to play for a very, very long time. I wanted to be really good, but I always wanted to be contributing. That was kind of my... I always get asked the questions, why didn't I go overseas? Why don't I experience something or chase the cash? I've always wanted to, I guess, squeeze the sponge with Australian rugby as best I could, and I could live with that. So that's probably been the driver for me to push on in the Wallaby jersey and try and keep making the squads and the teams. It's I guess what you go through up front, it's always the hard bit. But I always find the training a little bit harder than the game. So if I can get through training, I can get through the game.
James, you've lost one big ball carrier and potentially another. How much ownership do you take of that role this weekend, and who else do you look to in that pack to lead the charge?
Well, it's got to be shared between all the players out there, especially in the forward pack. You know, the two players under a question mark now. Well, obviously Nella's out, but hopefully Willie gets across the line. Is, you know, big carriers, big figures in our team, not only in defence but especially in attack. So we're just going to have to share the workload. I'm not sure I can carry like Nella, but I'll give it a go.
James, down the back, mate.
Oh,
how you going? How are you? Ewan McKenzie was your first Super Rugby coach, or one of the very early influential coaches in your professional career. How much did he shape you as a guy who was a prop at the top level himself as a player?
Yeah, Link was extremely important for my career, my development. I guess he was the one that gave me an opportunity to come through the academy and give me a shot at that Super Rugby level, and until this day, he's still one of my favourite coaches for that reason. And on top of that, the way he went about his work and developing me as a scrummager has also stuck with me over the years. The only thing, he always pigeonholed me as a tight end, didn't he, Palms? I've worked my way over to the loose head, but now I've kind of gone full circle and then ended up back at tight head. So length's a big part of my career, and I owe him a lot.
You recently became a father for the first time a couple of months ago. Some professional athletes talk about that moment in their life rejuvenating their career a little bit because it gives you a way to tune out from whatever your sport is. Have you found that it's, reinvigorated you as a rugby player?
Yeah, I think so. It's probably the best moment in my life. So I've always wanted to have a child at one of my games, and I guess I've got one now, and that's they're actually turning up next week. So hopefully I can stay in the team, mate, and she can watch me play the Wales.
James, if Dave Parecki does lead the team out tomorrow, can you speak of his kind of leadership traits, I guess, but also having been a co-captain at the very start of this campaign, is there any sense of disappointment or relief perhaps that you don't have that role coming forward?
No, well, firstly, Dave, given the opportunity, he'll be superb. The way he goes about his business on the field as a player, like he leads by example, but he's just one of those players who's really measured, really calm, composed, really, really world-class at his craft. So, that hooker role. He's got the respect from the boys. If he's given the chance, he'd do really well. He's something, even today, like leading the captain's run, he did a superb job. So, good captains find a way under pressure to stay composed and to lead, and he does that well. On a personal note, no, it's not disappointment at all. I'm always been team first, and that's what I want.
Isaac, a World Cup debut against Fiji, and given your heritage, is this a dream scenario for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's 2-1. So obviously a World Cup debut and playing Fiji is pretty exciting. But at the end of the day, once the 80 minutes starts, I'm all green and gold and can't wait to get out there.
And Isaac, how are the nerves? It's a big stage tomorrow, and what's your role, going to be when you do take the field?
I think I've been quite calm, which is good. I think the first game against France sort of gave me a little indication of what it's going to be like here. So, the nerves are good, and I guess just energy and pace into the game when I get my opportunity.
Back to you, James. There's been some kind words. You joined an illustrious group of Aussies, George and Adam, to play 4 World Cups. I think Adam called you the Gold Coast Ironman this week. He's talking about catching up for lunch every 4 years.
Who's this?
Adam Ashley Cooper.
Oh, yeah, swoop.
A couple of guys who've had a big influence on your career as well. If you were to catch up for lunch with them every 4 years and chew the fat, what would you say about them and what would you talk about?
Oh, probably the memories. Even that on the TV just there, that's the 2015 World Cup. Memories like that, they stay with you. So it's about going through the tough times with those players, but also celebrating the good times. And that's that would probably take up most of the time at lunch.
And George has said this week that he admires everything about you, and if you did go past his record of 139, he couldn't think of a better Wallaby to do that. What does that mean from George? And do you think you've got 9 in you?
I actually don't know. I guess hearing words like that from someone like George is, it's humbling, really. Like he's a Wallaby iconic player. Like he's a legend of our game in Australian rugby, and a little bit inside me doesn't want to break his record just for that fact. I've got that much respect for him, so I didn't come over here to break records. I really wanted to come here and win the World Cup. So, but for someone like George to say that, someone who I really respect very highly, I can only be very appreciative and full of respect.
Last question, please.
Sorry, Coach. Fiji has never beaten the Wallabies in the World Cup. And the last time they did in a test was in 1954. Are you confident it'll remain the same after 80 minutes tomorrow?
Well, this current Fiji team's a dangerous team, obviously. I think they're at their current best world ranking. We saw them take Wales right to the end last week, so we know it's going to be a really difficult game. They've got threats right across the park. We're preparing for that. We feel like we've prepared well this week, so in that respect we're confident. But we respect Fiji, and we know that they're a really tough team, and they're going to go well in this competition.
Thank you very much. That was the last question. Sorry. Thank you.
Thanks.